Some guys are clueless. I was one of them. Clueless men ought to have meetings somewhere. A place where we can get together, have a beer or six and feel stupid together. Trouble is, we wouldn't know the meeting was for us. Mary and I married in our early 20s. We got together often enough to make 3 kids and have occasional fun between the pregnancies too. I read the books that told me I was supposed to be the good husband and stay faithful. I followed the advice. When Allison left home to go to college, I wondered what Mary would do. No more kids at home. What she did was start volunteering at the hospital. 3 days a week she was there. She worked in the gift shop some days, in the pediatric playroom some days, and probably other places as well. We had a nice circle of friends that we gathered while we all were raising our kids, and we still got together about once a month for barbecues or parties in our various homes. I was close to 3 other guys in the circle basically because we were the ones who loved fishing. 4 or 5 times a year we would take off for a weekend fishing trip together. I thought our marriage was pretty much like the ones around me. Kids gone, wives doing stuff, some working and some not, husbands settled in our careers and biding our time until retirement. When we went fishing we talked about all that. We sometimes even talked about our relationships. In May the 4 of us went fishing. Sitting in the boat quietly watching the spot where my line entered the water we talked softly. It started with Jack talking about going to Stanford to visit his son. His wife found an empty C-wrapper in his room and was really upset. Then Paul mentioned that on the way home from visiting their daughter at school his wife had mentioned that Callie told her mom that she was having it with the guy she was dating. We all laughed when he described the guy. He was always wearing torn, worn-out clothes, needed a shave and slouched. Mike didn't say anything for quite a while. I noticed and asked, "Mike, what's going on in there? You seem deep in thought." "I'm not sure I want to say anything. If I'm wrong I would be starting something that might hurt someone, and if I'm right it will certainly hurt all of us." "Is it something that you saw or did?" I asked. He hesitated. "No fish interrupted, so he said, I saw your wife parking her car behind the Marriott." "Whose wife and when?" "Your wife. 3 weeks ago. And, day before yesterday." Jack asked, "Are you implying that Nick's wife is F around?" "I don't know what she's doing. I know I've seen her twice at the Marriott in a month." "What were you doing at the Marriott?" Paul asked. Mike looked at him like he had to be retarded. "I deliver supplies to the Marriott 3 times a week. The Marriott and every other hotel in the area." "Right. I forgot." My head was spinning. Why would Mary be at the Marriott twice in a month? Could she be F around on me? I needed to get home and check this out. I didn't go home. I stayed fishing with the guys. If I took off it would say that I believed Mary was cheating on me. When we got back into the city I picked my car up at Jack's house and headed home. When I got home Mary wasn't home. I sat at the computer thinking about how I could find out what Mary was doing. Over the 2 hours before she came home I found some things on the internet that would help me find out. I ordered them and had them shipped to my office. When Mary did come home I put the move on her and she let me fondle her chest but didn't want to have it. She blamed hot flashes and menopause. No surprise there. Life for the next week was normal for Mary and me, with an undercurrent of wondering and suspicion. I looked for and listened for any hint about what she might be doing. I called her at random times and everything seemed fine. The night after the first package arrived I worked in the garage and mounted a GPS transmitter on her car. From my laptop I could locate and track her without her knowing. The next day another package arrived and I installed it in her car as well. Now I could listen in on everything said in her car. The next morning Mary wasn't scheduled to be at the hospital and at breakfast she said she might do some shopping. From my office I tracked her to the mall and then to the market. She was home with whatever she bought by 1 in the afternoon. At 1:40 she left home and drove south for 10 minutes, east for 10 minutes and then wound around until she was at the Marriott. I left the office and drove to the Marriott. In 5 minutes I found her car and parked where I was well hidden but could see her car easily. At 4:20 she walked out of the hotel and straight to her car. As she pulled out and headed for the exit Alex White walked out of the same exit and nodded at her as she drove past him. Alex White. I was shocked. Alex had one of the nicest, best-looking wives in our circle of friends. He got in his car and drove away. I sat in the parking lot until my cell rang. "Nick. Mary. You are so short on the phone. Couldn't you say hello?" "Hello. What do you want for dinner?" "How about you, naked on the table with a little ranch dressing?" "Darn. We're out of ranch dressing. Anything else?" "Something light and healthy. A salad or salmon." My thoughts weren't on dinner, they were on being normal so she wouldn't suspect that I knew anything. "Okay. What time will you be home?" "Just after 5. "Okay. See you then." She hung up. Having a thought I got out of my car and went into the Marriott. As I approached the desk I saw the daughter of one of my clients behind the desk. I chatted with her for a couple of minutes and then I asked, one of my friends told me that another friend was staying here. Could you check for me? Sure. What's his name? Alex. Alex White. Her fingers danced on the keyboard and seconds later she said, he is in room 188, just like always. Just like always? Every Thursday morning he checks in and is gone the next morning. He always has room 188. Sometimes he is here on other days too, but always on Thursdays. Can the computer tell how long this has been going on? Fingers danced and she said, first time was in January. Would you get in trouble if you gave me a printout of his record? No one would know I did it. Is something going on? Let's just say he's been coming into town more often than his friends knew about. Do you want the printout? Yes, please. She gave it to me in a Marriott folder. I wasn't sure what I would do with it, but I knew it would be useful. I tucked it in my briefcase and drove home. Mary had a salmon salad ready when I got home. We ate and she told me about her day shopping. By her telling the story, she was in the mall until 3 and then stopped in the market on the way home. She sat right there and lied to my face. I wondered if she had showered when she got home to get the hotel and the thing smells off her. Asking to be excused, I went to the bathroom and peed. I also checked and the shower was wet and there were clothes in the hamper. Damn. I was really getting pissed. Why in hell would Mary BF Alex every week for months? She sure as hell wasn't F me. We cleaned up after dinner and she perched on the couch with a book. My retreat was to the computer. I looked up the list of people in our circle and found the email address for Alex's wife. She had two. One at home and one at her office. I used my other email address and sent her an email to her office address. The return address she would see would be one she wouldn't recognize. My note to her said, if you would like to know who, when and where Alex is cheating on you, respond to this email. I have evidence that will be of interest to you. I don't want money. I sent it at 8:10. At 9 I looked and her response was there. I can meet tomorrow at almost any time. I am showing a new home at 1212 Oak Street in Claremont almost all day. You could drop in around 1 and I can take lunch then. You could drop in any time the house is open and if no one else is there we can talk. I erased the emails, hers and mine, and went to bed. I was asleep when Mary came to bed. In the morning, Mary was cheerful and getting ready for a day at the hospital. I got dressed and went to work just like always. At 12 I called Mary and asked, can I take care of dinner tonight? Are you going to cook? Is there something you'd like me to cook? Jambalaya. Then that's what you'll get. I checked the GPS and she was at the hospital. I drove from my office past Alex's office just in time to see Alex and two other men walk into a deli. I parked at the curb and quickly installed another GPS tracker on his car. Then I drove to a sandwich place and got a sandwich for me and a salad for Alex's wife. At 1 I parked 2 doors down from the open house sign and walked to the open house. When Helen saw me, her face paled and she got up off the couch and went to the front door. She put a sign out that said, at lunch till 2. Then she came back inside. We sat on the couch. Her eyes were full of tears and she looked like if she spoke she would break down. I suddenly was afraid of the same thing. From my briefcase I pulled the Marriott papers and handed them to her. She looked them over and the tears did fall. In a whisper I said, I'm so sorry. She looked up at my face and said, the bastard has been cheating on me for months. He's been cheating for at least part of that time with my wife, Mary. I'm so sorry. She paused, blew her nose and then said, he is so screwed. That piece of paper does not prove anything. We need actual proof. We also need to be fully prepared for what we are going to do when we have proof. Right. Sometimes I'm impulsive and fly off the handle. We need a plan. An hour later Helen took down the lunch sign and we continued to talk until almost 4. No one came to the open house. We had a plan when I left. That night I looked on the internet and found a conference in Las Vegas for people in my field and another conference in Las Vegas for realtors. I sent Helen the info and she replied that we should go. I made my reservation and told Mary. I told her about the conference and how I thought I could make some good connections there. I asked her if she wanted to go. She said she wanted to think about it and would give me an answer in the morning. Helen waited until Alex came home to tell him about the conference she wanted to attend. She also invited him to go. He couldn't go. Too much work. Mary called me at work and told me she just didn't feel up to 3 days and nights in Vegas and the long drive. Instead, she was thinking about visiting her sister. I acted disappointed. No more was said about the trip. In my office the next day I called Henry Hawkins, my lawyer. Actually he's the lawyer for my business. I asked for and got his assurance that he had no professional or personal relationship with Mary. Then we talked about the possible implications of a divorce. I made notes into a computer file. I spoke to him about the family assets and how they would be divided. I asked how I could protect myself so I didn't get screwed in the process. He set in motion a plan to protect me and my assets. He also hired someone to get proof that they were having an affair. At 4 my phone rang. It was Helen calling from a pay phone. She had reservations at the Mirage. I was at Treasure Island. She talked about what she needed to bring. I told her to bring her laptop, her personal phone book and a cell phone that she could use from Vegas without it costing $1,000. That night I packed. Mary came in as I was finishing up and looked over my suitcase. "You forgot a bathing suit." "I'm not going on vacation. A swim with contacts might help." I packed a swimsuit. She didn't say anything else. When I was packed I put the suitcase in the trunk of my car and after my nightly ritual, went to bed. I invited Mary to join me in bed for a pre-trip frolic but she was a little tired. "Maybe when you get back," she said, smiling. Before dawn I was up and on the road. My cell phone rang at 7:30 and I answered. It was Helen. "Where are you?" she asked. "Almost to Pomona. There's a Denny's there where we get off to go to the fair, remember?" "Yes. It's about 2 miles ahead. Get off and I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. Okay? Sure. I'm hungry. Want me to order for you?" "No. I'll wait. Get started yourself though." I pulled off the freeway and parked at Denny's. A few minutes later Helen walked in. She was wearing jeans and a loose western shirt with western boots. Not at all what I expected. She smiled and sat down with me. The waitress was right there and left her with a menu and coffee. She came back and we both ordered. I kept looking at Helen like she wasn't the professional woman I had almost always seen her as. Even at parties she usually dressed like she was going to or just came from an open house. After we ate Helen said how much she hated the thought of driving all the way to Las Vegas alone. I said for her to follow me, I had an idea. She agreed and followed me to a nearby parking structure. At the entrance I asked how much it would cost to park a car there for 3 days. It wasn't much so I drove in and so did Helen. I parked and she parked next to me. I loaded her stuff into my car and we left her car right there. Neither of us needed to drive alone. We talked strategies for 3.5 hours. I drove and she took notes. In Baker, we gassed the car and took a short break. We had come together because our spouses were cheating on us. Now we were becoming friends. I liked her. I had liked her for years without ever really getting to know her. We laughed sometimes, we were sad sometimes and we got along on the trip. In Las Vegas I dropped her at her hotel and went to mine. We agreed when and where to meet for supper. At my room I called my lawyer and he laughed. "You can come back now. Your wife went to his house and they went skinny dipping in his backyard. We have video of them having 3 kinds of it in the backyard. You are free. There is even a copy of Time magazine from today on the table next to them as they were doing it. Set things in motion, then. Shall I have his wife call you? Funny thing is, she already has. Between you and her both hiring me I'll save both of you lots of money." "Thanks. Can I ask you a hypothetical question?" "Sure. What will happen to this case if Helen and I get together while we are here in Vegas? Unless your wife is having you followed or Alex is having you followed, nothing. Mess up both rooms. Do you want her served or him served before you get back?" "No. I want to be there changing the locks before she is served. Get a restraining order keeping her away from my business and the house if that can be done. When do you want all this ready?" "I'll talk it over with Helen and we'll get back to you." An hour later I walked into Caesars and found the restaurant Helen had picked. I sat with her and we talked and ate. I used my cell and called our lawyer. "Wait to do anything until we get back. Have your guy get more proof while we're gone. Better to have a ton when a pound would do." When I hung up we paid the bill and walked through the shopping area together. We didn't touch once. I wanted to. The image of Mary skinny dipping and screwing in Alex's backyard kept popping into my head. Mary hadn't skinny dipped with me since Todd, our oldest, was old enough to walk. Now he's married. Helen said she was getting tired so we walked to the taxi area and she went back to her hotel. Just before she got in the cab I saw and felt her wanting to kiss me. I wanted it too but we didn't. Half an hour later I walked into my room and the phone was ringing. It was Mary. "It's late. Where have you been?" "I went over to Caesars for dinner and I walked around afterwards. I saw some sexy clothes I think you would look good in. Shall I get them for you?" "Sexy clothes? You know I almost never dress sexy. I'm almost 50 for heaven's sake." "So, that's a no?" "That's a no. Now if you find a nice necklace or jewelry that would be nice." "Okay. I'll look tomorrow. Right now I'm shutting off the cell phone and going to sleep. Good night, Mary. I love you. Sleep well. Good night." She didn't say she loved me. I showered and shaved, getting ready for bed. I sat down on the bed to shut off my cell for the night when it rang. "Hello. Open the door." I opened the door and Helen came in and closed it behind her. I was standing there in a towel and she was still in jeans and western shirt. Alex is at home, not missing me at all. He is your wife in my bed. I thought about that in the taxi ride to my hotel. I got all the way to my room, called the desk asking that I not be disturbed for the night, messed up the bed and came here. She smiled and took the towel from me. It jumped and she smiled. I'm happy to see you, too. On her knees she told me again about how happy she was to be in the room with me. She stood up and we held each other. At the side of the bed I undressed her. I talked while I undressed her. As the buttons opened on her shirt I asked, "Are you here with me as revenge?" When the shirt came off she said, "At first I wanted to F you because they were cheating on us. No more. Alex ended our marriage. I can stand that and spend a year or two being sad and mopey, feeling sorry for myself and playing victim songs on the radio. Or, I can get back to living life the way I like life. I want you in bed with me but please don't F me. No? No. Join with me, love me, let's pleasure each other but please, let's not F." I nodded and unbuttoned her jeans. I had known Helen and Alex for at least 10 years and had never seen her in a bikini or seen more than a tiny glance of her lace-covered chest. Now she was exposed to me. For me. "Tell me what you like," I said as I reached for her shoulders. "I like being loved, cared for. I'll do what I can. Let's start with a shower. We have both been up and traveling for many hours." We went into the bathroom and I restarted the shower. I washed her from top to bottom and down both legs. We kissed often. She washed me, more to explore me than to get me clean. We kissed often. She shut off the water and dried me. I dried her and led her back to the bed. "Helen, I want our first time in bed together to be memorable. I want us to get in bed and hold each other and fall asleep holding each other. When we wake up I think that would be the perfect time for us to join, softly, gently and with passion." Helen held my face in her hands and a tear slid down her cheek. We slowly kissed and then she got in bed, making room for me beside her. She adjusted herself against me and wrapped my arms around her. I kissed her once and we were asleep. Just about every man I know has a fantasy of waking up with a lover. When I married Mary the first had the fantasy. It came true twice. Twice, over 19 years ago. When I opened my eyes she bent over and kissed me. "Good morning. I saw your invitation when I woke up and I couldn't wait to say yes. I hope you put AC on me." "Why?" She stopped moving and looked scared. "I don't want to start a baby this morning." She laughed and said, "No chance. I no longer make babies." "Then why are we doing this?" My hands held her hips. "For fun. For pleasure. For therapy. I love how you feel and how you look." I watched the blush on her chest and watched her face as she got closer. As she regained herself she leaned forward and rested on my chest. I held her and kissed her. She pulled the sheet up over us and in seconds we both were asleep. It was almost noon when we got up. We showered, dressed, and went to Helen's room. She needed fresh clothes. As she changed I called our lawyer. He let us know that Alex and Mary spent the night in Mary's bed and the photographer had pictures from our patio, bedroom, living room and my computer desk. I thanked him and said that would be enough. Helen and I got in my car and I drove toward Lake Mead. We talked a lot. Our thoughts and words were angry, then sad, then hurt, and by the time we were in Kingman, Arizona I was only sad. Our conversation had me realize that Mary and I had stopped loving and caring for each other quite a while ago. We both loved our kids, but not each other. Helen came to the same conclusion about her relationship with Alex. We stayed in Kingman long enough to have dinner and headed back to Las Vegas. Time went and we didn't notice. We talked about our lives. We talked about what we wanted for the next few years. We talked about how our kids would be with our divorces. Back at my hotel I packed and put my suitcase in my car. I checked out of the hotel and moved into Helen's room. We joined and she cried as we did. My John Wayne persona didn't want me to cry but I came close to crying anyway. It was more than it was being fully connected. I used my hands, mouth, tongue, knee and other to pleasure Helen. Usually, in my past with Mary, I spent our time in bed headed for our finish. In bed with Helen I didn't care about it. I cared about being connected to her. I'd heard about being connected this way but it had never happened to me before. Morning found us in bed uncovered and Helen spread out on her back. When I came back to bed I wondered if women have a fantasy of waking up while a man doing it. At the first touch Helen moaned. I loved the feeling of power that gave me. My hands held her hips. She grabbed my hands and moved them to her chest. Softly she said, "Please make me finish." After our little nap we ordered room service and got ready to drive back to LA. As I dressed Helen said, "Don't wear underwear, please." I smiled and left them off. I asked her to wear a skirt. She smiled and did as I asked. As we checked out I bought 2 hotel towels. Helen wanted to ask about that but waited until we were at the car to ask. You might want to do it as we drive. And the other one? She smiled as she asked. It's just in case. In case what? In case one towel isn't enough. I put the suitcases in the trunk and Helen folded the towel on her seat. We got lunch at a drive-thru. I asked for extra napkins. When we were in the parking structure where Helen's car was parked, she said, "What now?" I'm wondering that too. I don't want to sleep in the same bed with Alex. I want you. Let's trade. She sat up, looked at me like I was crazy and said, "What? I want to wake up with you. You just said you want me. Obviously Alex and Mary want each other. Let's make that happen." Honestly? Damn right. Then we don't need to be angry, abandoned, hurt, or anything like it. They can have what they want and I win. You win? Waking up every morning with you is winning. Living with you is winning. What if Alex is just fooling around with Mary and doesn't really want her? Then they get just what they deserve, nothing. They F themselves out of two good people, their homes, their families. A little honesty would have been better. I need to think. Okay. Drive to my office and I'll meet you there. Is that enough time to think? Let me be clear. You want us, you and me, to live together. You want all four of us to get divorced. Right? Helen, all four of us are getting divorced. The day after the divorces are final, I want to marry you. Will you marry me? Too soon. We barely know each other. Bull. We have known each other for years. We've only been available to even think about love for a few days. I can make the commitment right now to love you. I do love you. Nick. Think about it as you drive to my office. Be careful. Be safe. I opened the door to her car and kissed her. The kiss was full of promises I was willing to make. She put the towel on her seat and got in. As she drove away, I wondered if she would go to my office, if she would say yes, and I wondered where I was sleeping that night. Helen was standing beside her car when I pulled into my parking lot. When I parked, she pulled my door open and somehow squeezed between my gut and the steering wheel. Yes. Yes, I love you. Yes, I want to wake up with you every morning. Yes, I'll marry you. She paused and filled the time with kisses. What do we do next? We need to talk to our spouses. Let me look at the GPS and see where they are. Both trackers showed they were at Helen's house. Get in. We'll go to your house. 10 minutes and we pulled into the driveway behind Mary's car. Quietly we went in through the back door and heard the noises. We walked through the house until we saw them on the living room floor. Mary was with Alex and was faced away from us. Alex was flat on his back and Mary's body blocked his view of us. I motioned Helen onto the couch and I sat next to her. Helen didn't watch. Mary lifted off Alex and as she did, Alex saw us. "Oh, holy S!" he yelled. Mary looked, saw us and forgot about everything. She froze. A few seconds passed and Helen said, "You're dripping on my carpet." That snapped Mary into action. Alex was still flat on his back, looking at us. I said, "Perhaps you would like a few minutes to clean up and get dressed?" "Oh God, Nick. I'm so sorry. We didn't mean for this to happen." Mary said, the word flowing quickly from her. Tears filled her eyes. "We'll talk when you've cleaned up and put clothes on. Go," I said. They scrambled up and left the living room. We gathered their clothes and I carried them down the hall to the bathroom. When the sounds told me they were in the shower, I gently opened the door and put their clothes inside. Back in the living room, Helen was cleaning the spot on the carpet. "You get to choose," I said. "What? Which house you and I live in? Do you want to live here or at my house?" "Why do I get to choose?" "Because they are the offending parties. They cheated. We get to pick." Before she could respond, Alex and Mary walked into the room. I pointed at the other couch and they sat at opposite ends. Helen gave up on the spot and came over and sat next to me on the couch. Alex started to speak. Helen held up a hand. He stopped. She looked at me. I asked, "Alex, do you love my wife or is this just F?" He looked down for a long time, then at Mary and said, "I think I love her." "Mary, do you love Alex?" Her answer was quicker. "Yes." "If you were not married to us, would you live together?" Alex spoke, "I don't want a divorce." "Oh? You want my permission to keep F my wife? You want Helen to clean up on the carpet here in her home? What do you want, Alex?" "I wanted you to never know what we were doing. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. I don't want my marriage to end." "Alex, would it be okay with you if I had an affair?" Helen asked. Her voice was cold and controlled, but we all heard the acid. "No. You're my wife." His eyes went wide as he looked at Helen. "Alex, would it be okay with you if I F Helen right here on your living room carpet?" "No. I mean, it isn't supposed to be like this." "Wait. Are you F my wife?" "No. I have never F Helen. Wouldn't it be fair if we did it and had the two of you watch?" Then you would have some idea what an emotional jolt it was for us when we discovered we were being cheated. Nick, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Mary said through the tissue she held to her face. You did hurt me. The evidence says you planned and went to the Marriott at least 20 times so the two of you could F someone else's spouse. Alex, I'll give you 5 minutes to get a suitcase packed. 6 minutes from now you need to be out the door. You can make arrangements through my lawyer to come back for the rest of your stuff. Helen looked at her watch. Alex didn't move. Mary, I am going to our home when I leave here. When you get there you get 5 minutes to pack and go. You can make arrangements with my lawyer to come back and get the rest of your things. If either of you come to your homes without making arrangements through the lawyer, I will send the pictures to everyone we know, including the kids. 4 minutes, Helen said. Alex jumped up and disappeared into the bedroom. Helen counted down the time. When she said, 1 minute, I got up and went to the bedroom door. You do not want to be in the house when time runs out. I yelled. Alex closed the suitcase and fled. He didn't say anything to Helen or to Mary. Mary, walk out the door. Helen, lock up the house when we're gone. If Alex comes back, call me and the pictures will be on the internet before he can get in the house. Be careful. I don't know what Alex is going to do. I followed Mary out the door and she followed my car to our house. I opened the door and held it for her. She was crying. Inside she sat down in the kitchen and sobbed. I am sorry, Nick. Good. You should be sorry. You started it with Alex in January and stopped having it with me. Am I a bad lover? Have you hated with me for 22 years? No. I just felt so wanted and needed by Alex. You don't need me. The kids don't need me. You can undo everything around here. Alex said he needed me. He didn't even say goodbye when he left the house. He doesn't want a divorce. That means he doesn't want you. You were just a good F for him. You know what that makes you? She looked up at me and I answered my question. A woman who has it like you did is a SL. An immoral woman who ends up alone. I hope he was very good. It has cost you a marriage, a home, a future with me, and maybe it will cost you your children as well. Mary sat in the chair and sobbed. I got a Diet Coke from the refrigerator and sat across from her. When she stopped crying I looked at my watch and said, you have the 5 minutes I promised. They start now. I set the timer on the oven and said, when that rings, don't be here. There were 20 seconds left when the door closed behind her. I watched as she got 2 suitcases into her car and drove off. I saw Alex's car follow her. In my office I turned on the tracking monitor and saw they both pulled over 2 blocks from me. I turned on the audio monitor and heard a car door open and the sounds of Alex sitting down. Mary was crying. They won't really divorce us. Alex said. Yes, he will. There is no way he will take me back. He called me AS. I am A. I was a good married woman and now I'm AS. I'm your S. You did this to me. What will you do? C. You don't even ask what we will do. We got caught and now you abandon me. You bastard. If I could send the pictures to your kids and not mine I would. I won't because I can't bear the thought of my kids seeing me. She sobbed and after a few minutes I heard the car door open and close. I heard the muffled sounds of a car starting and driving off. I shut off the audio. My box of tissues was used. I was angry and hurt but I still hated that Mary was hurting so badly. Out in the garage I found a set of locks I bought a few years earlier but had never installed. I installed them and the keys Mary had would no longer fit my house. I called Helen. How are you doing? I asked. That hurt? Are you coming back here? Yes. When Mary left here Alex met and talked with her. He abandoned her. Right now, he is driving towards your house. I'm leaving my house so it shouldn't be more than 10 minutes and I'll be there. Call my cell if he approaches the house. Okay? Yes. Alex is a bigger S than I thought. He just abandoned her? He wants you and he wants to be able to F around. Mary was just for fun. Bastard. He isn't getting back into my life. Not now and not ever. Sit tight. I'll be there soon. I love you. I love you too. The phone went dead. I drove the speed limits and pulled into the driveway. Alex's car was parked at the curb. He was standing on the porch talking. When I closed the car door he stopped and turned to face me. Let me talk to Helen. She's my wife. No. She was your wife. You heard me tell you not to come back and here you are. Remember what I said I would do? Don't do it. I just want to talk to her. Too late. When I saw you here I sent the pictures. I had over 100 pictures. I sent some to your kids, some to our friends, some to the newspaper. Every one I sent shows your face. Talking to Helen won't save your marriage. On Monday you will be served with divorce papers. Congratulations. You wanted a good F and you got lots more than you counted on. Alex faced me and didn't see the police car quietly pull up and park 2 doors down. I did. I stood still and in a non-threatening posture. Alex came off the porch and flew at me. When he got to me, he hit me hard in the chest and I went down. Before he could hit me again, 2 cops grabbed him. "I'll kill you," he screamed. As quickly as they could, Alex was cuffed and in the back of their car. Helen came out and we talked to the police for a few minutes. Alex yelled threats from the back seat of the car. When the police left, we went inside. "Did you really send the pictures?" "No. That wouldn't hurt just Alex. My kids will be coming next weekend for their mother's birthday. If they want to see the pictures, I'll show them. I hope they don't want to see them. I wouldn't want our kids to see that." Part of me wanted to open the door. "Really? Why didn't you?" When I listened to him, he was telling me how I was going to be alone. He told me how much I needed him. He talked about how important he was. Nothing about how much he loved me, how much he needed me, or even about how he loved the kids. The part of me that wanted to open the door was the part that wanted to believe I could fix him. "You didn't open the door." "No. I saw your car and realized Alex was wrong. Over the last 4 days I have discovered something. I am not going to be alone. I don't need him. There is someone who loves me and loves loving me. There is someone who has loved my kids for years. You were their soccer coach, not Alex. You were with us on the camping trips. You replaced the hot water heater when it leaked." I stood by the door, and when I realized Alex was getting angry, I called the cops. I talked to them and explained what was happening. I told them he might get violent. I saw them pull up out front. "I was afraid he would hurt you." "He did. When he hit me, it hurt a lot. I wonder if you could kiss my boo-boo and make it feel better." "Oh, what a good idea. Maybe we should go to the bedroom so I can have you lie down." My arm around her and hers around me, we went to the bedroom. The room was not as I expected. No bedspread on the bed, no throw rugs on the floor. The room was pretty barren. I tossed a lot of what was in here. This isn't Alex and Helen's bedroom anymore. We can get some nice things to make it our bedroom. No hurry though. As long as you are in the bed with me, it is our bedroom. Should I bring in my stuff tonight or in the morning? Take your time. I suspect it will be later tomorrow when you need clothes at all. She smiled and helped me undress. "I also hurt right here," I said, pointing to my lips. I had thoughts about it, but instead I stopped our kisses and said, "I've got lots of emotions going on right now. I love you and I'm excited about being with you. I'm hurting over how both of us were treated. I'm pissed at Alex and at Mary. I'm in my head about what our friends and our kids are going to do and say." I took a big breath. "Can we hold off and just share the comfort of being together?" She snuggled against me and said, "Perfect." I shut off the light and we slept. We didn't hurry, and at some point we fell asleep. At some time after the sun was up, my cell phone rang. Helen's phone rang at the same time. Helen answered from bed. I ran out into the hall and answered. "This is Nick." "Dad, what's going on?" It was Todd, my oldest. "What are you asking?" "I called Mom this morning and asked about our visit this coming weekend. She broke into tears and said to call you. She hung up and now she won't answer." "How soon can the 3 of you get home?" "We can be there tonight if we need to be." "What's going on?" "I'm not telling you over the phone. Call me back and let me know how you're getting here. If you fly in, I'll pick you up at the airport. If you drive, let me know what time you'll be at the house." "You're not telling me over the phone, are you?" "No. I'm sorry to make you wait, but I think it's best." When I hung up, I peeked in the bedroom and Helen was pale and still on the phone. She saw me and motioned me inside the bedroom. Into the phone she said, "Honey, hang on a sec." She covered the phone and whispered. "It's Carol. Her dad called her from jail last night. He asked her to help him make bail. She wants to know what's happening. Ask her how quickly they can come home. You need a family council and as soon as possible. My kids will be home tonight. We can meet at my house and tell them all at once. Alex will still be in jail. I have no idea where Mary is." She uncovered the phone and told her daughter she was to come home and get her brother home too. They would call her when they were close. She told them to drive to my house as we would be meeting there. Carol had 100 questions and all Helen said was all her questions would be answered when we were together. I called our lawyer and asked that he have the photos delivered. I told him about the assault and the plan we had for the future. He agreed with our plan and said he would bring the photos by himself. We got dressed and set about the tasks at hand. I bought packing boxes and boxed Alex's things and stacked the boxes in the garage. Helen found a spare key for his car and we parked it in the garage. We forwarded all calls to Helen's phone to my number and then we went to my house. Inside I started boxing my stuff. Helen walked through the house and came to me a few times asking questions. "Do you want the lazy boy to live at our house or leave it here? Will it fit in your home? It's a good color for the family room. Alex's is going. Let's take it." When the phone rang, I looked at the caller ID and handed the phone to Helen. It was Carol and she was about an hour away. She said she remembered how to get to my place, so Helen thanked her for the call and hung up. 5 minutes later the phone rang again and it was my kids. They were all in one car and would be arriving in about an hour. Helen decided to order pizza and salad delivered and she made the call. I finished packing my clothes and some other things. I needed to keep busy. I came out of my bedroom and saw Helen standing at the front window. I walked to her and took her in my arms. There will be tears and anger. Even if it sounds like they are angry at us, they aren't. Disappointed, hurt, and betrayed all mixed together. Remind yourself that we didn't do anything wrong and remind yourself that I love you. I couldn't do this without you. Yes, you could and you would. Hopefully having me here makes it a little easier. She turned to kiss me just as my daughter's car pulled into the driveway. We noticed the pizza delivery pulling up in front at the same time. I'll set the table, Helen said as she ran to the kitchen. I opened the front door. My son, Todd, helped carry the food inside and I paid the delivery guy. He looked around and saw Helen but not his mother. Where's Mom? I don't know. Helen's kids arrived and I let them in. They started in with questions too. I held up my hand and when they all stopped I said, the food will keep. Let's all sit down in the living room and we'll explain. All Helen's kids sat on one couch and mine sat on the other couch. I pointed Helen at the big chair and I got a chair from the kitchen. Before I could sit there was a knock at the door. It was Henry Hawkins, my lawyer. He handed me a thick envelope, noticed all the kids in the living room and whispered, "Good luck. Do you need me to stay?" "No, but thanks." I closed the door and took my seat. "Rather than have you all asking questions, let me tell you the story. Then you can ask anything you want. Okay?" No one moved, so I started. A week ago I was playing golf with some friends and one of them mentioned that he had seen Mary at the Marriott in the afternoon. I couldn't think of a reason she should be there. I put a GPS tracker on her car. 2 days later she went back to the Marriott. 3 hours later she left and 10 minutes later Alex White, Helen's husband, walked out the same door. I got the hotel records for Alex and discovered he rented the same room every few days since last January. All the kids looked at each other and Alex's son said, "That doesn't mean they were cheating." They all nodded. "You're right. I hired someone to find out, hoping they were not having an affair." I spoke to Helen, in hopes she knew some reason why Alex would be at the Marriott. Our lawyer advised we get out of town for a couple days so we could find out for sure what was going on. Helen spoke up. "I went to the Mirage in Las Vegas and Nick went to the Treasure Island." The next day when I spoke to the lawyer he said he had pictures of Alex and Mary at Alex's house having it out by the pool. "Are those pictures in the envelope?" Carol asked, pointing to the envelope by my feet. "Yes." Helen and I waited one more day before returning. The photographer got more evidence when they came here and had it here. This is so gross. When we came back they were in Helen's house having it in the living room. We walked in on them and saw them on the floor. We asked if they wanted divorces so they could get together. Alex said no. Mary said yes. We let them gather some personal items and tossed them both out. I have not seen or heard from Mary. Helen called me because Alex came back and was threatening her from the porch. She called the police as well, and when Alex assaulted me and threatened us both, the police arrested him. He is, as far as I know, still in jail. The questions started. "Are you getting a divorce?" We both nodded. "Have you seen the pictures?" "No. We saw them having it in your mother's living room." "We don't need to see the pictures. They are for court, if we need them." "Is Dad going to prison?" "He assaulted me and threatened your mother in front of 2 police officers. I would guess he will do time for that." "Mom, how long had you known that Dad was fooling around?" "I knew when Nick showed me the hotel records. He was spending our retirement money to pay for a room at the Marriott." "Damn," Carol said. The others nodded. "What happens next?" "Things will change. I'm putting this house on the market. I don't need a big house like this." "Mom, I don't want to move. I've been thinking about having a roommate." "Mom, are you and Nick lovers?" "When we were in Las Vegas we spent a lot of time together, talking and getting to know each other. When we got back I decided I'd like to give life with Helen a go. I asked her to marry me. Before we discovered our spouses cheating we had never so much as kissed. Now, I am proud to have Nick as my lover and soon-to-be husband. We hope you can be okay with all of what you have learned. We love each of you." The room was quiet for a long time. Finally, Carol stood up and came to me. She knelt and picked up the envelope. "I don't want to see these pictures, but I must. I don't want to believe the story, but if the pictures verify it I must." She opened the envelope and looked inside. Her hands trembled. She only looked at one picture and didn't pull it out of the envelope. "That bastard," she said and closed the envelope. She handed the envelope to me and said, "You should have kicked his ass. I have been tempted." Helen's son came and took the envelope. I have to know. He reached in and pulled out about 10 pictures. They were all 8 by 10 color prints and each showed Mary and Alex having it. He looked at every picture in his hands. He didn't say anything. They all went back in the envelope. Later, we threw the pizza and salads away. None of it got eaten. About 9 we went to a Chinese place and ate. The kids had all been friends for all their lives. They were getting used to the idea of being in the same family. Just before the fortune cookies my son, Matt asked, "Can we go camping this summer?" Helen smiled and said, "Some of my fondest memories of when you were all growing up were the camping trips we took together." I was quiet for a few moments when Carol, Helen's daughter, looked at me and said, "Can we, Dad? Can we?" Tears slid down my face. How could she take me into her heart that quick? How could I say no? Each of them said it. "Can we, Dad? Can we?" "Sure. Sounds good to me. Get out your calendars, let's pick a time." When we left the restaurant, our first family campout was scheduled. The pain was still there. The disappointment was still there. But, out front was the plan for a good future. That was 4 years ago. Mary never came to court, and no one has seen or heard from her. She took a cash advance on her credit card the day after she spoke to the kids on the phone and disappeared. Alex is spending 8 1/3 to 15 years in prison. None of his kids have visited. I haven't ever looked in the envelope. It is in the safe in our home. We go camping, as a family, once a year. Some men are clueless. Alex could have had the house, kept his job and kept Mary. I wonder if he thinks about that.